in this lecture we go into velocity kinematics. Okay, so mm, yes, first we clear up a few very simple things, basic ideas. So we have already discussed that uh, position transformation. Oh, okay. We have already discussed that position transformations are basically nonlinear, known to unknown. I'm not calling essentially input to output, because in some problems it may be that some output is known and you are supposed to find inputs. So known to unknown. Position transformation is nonlinear and often multivalued. For example, even in a simple mechanism like 4 bar, if theta 2 is given and you are asked to find theta 4 and theta 3 perhaps, then this transformation is multivalued. That is, for the same value of theta 2, you can have a pair of sets for theta 3 and theta 4. So position transformation is essentially nonlinear and often multivalued, most of the time multivalued in closed kinematic chains. Velocity transformation, on the other hand, is purely linear, with coefficients being independent of velocities, dependent only on the position coordinates. Okay. For example, if you differentiate this, then this is constant, so derivative is 0. From here you get L4 e to the power I theta 4 into I theta 4 dot, minus from here you will get L3 e to the power I theta 3 into I theta 3 dot, and similarly a term from here. In each of them I happens to be common, but that is not an issue. So you get it like this. Okay. So I being common is not an issue, but only one velocity term being appearing in each of the terms is important, and that is 0. When you resolve this, then you got sin theta 2 sin theta 4 cos theta 2 cos theta 4 etc. And there we were discussing position transformations. So those nonlinear functions were making this transformation nonlinear. Okay. Now here we are talking about velocity transformation, and here for theta 2 dot, theta 3 dot, theta 4 dot, the velocity terms, you are getting no nonlinear term. There are 3 terms in this particular case. Each of them has just one velocity quantity. Okay, and therefore this linear relationship you can always organize in this manner when you resolve this into real and imaginary components. So finding out the coefficients of theta 3 dot, from here you fill the first column. Finding the coefficients from of theta 4 dot, you fill this column, and similarly from theta 2 dot you fill this column, and whichever is the quantity that is known you can throw that on the right hand side, and the unknown terms come in this manner, and the entire relationship appears in the form of a system of linear equations. Okay, but since the coefficients involve the position terms theta 2 theta 3 theta 4 etc., therefore to start the calculation on velocities, the positions, all positions need to be solved to begin with. Similarly, now make note that this is a pure linear transformation. Pure linear, and the difference of pure and impure linear you will see when you consider the acceleration transformation. For that, you differentiate this, and there you will notice each term here will produce two terms in the derivative. In the first case, you will find I L4 e to the power I theta 4 into theta 4 double dot, that is here. Okay. In the other, you will find I L4 e to the power I theta 4 into I theta 4 dot into theta 4 dot. That means this will be this term. I already one and another when you differentiate this. So this will be here. I square L4 e to the power I theta 4. Oh, here it's here. I square into L4 e to the power I theta 4 into 1 theta 4 dot was already there, and when you differentiate this with respect to time, then from there another theta 4 dot is appearing. So theta 4 dot will appear twice, one already existing, one through differentiation of this, and I also will appear twice, one already existing and one that you get while differentiating this. So each of these three terms will produce two terms. One I have put here, another I have put here. Okay. So these terms are acceleration terms. This should be theta 2. Similarly, this should be theta 2. Theta 2 double dot, and here theta 2 dot square. Okay. So acceleration transformation turns out to be linear, that is acceleration to acceleration, known acceleration to unknown acceleration, with an additive velocity dependent term, which is this. Since before starting analyzing accelerations, you would have determined all velocities. So this entire thing I am putting as a single velocity dependent term. That is putting all those terms together because these are known. So this is also linear, but there will be a constant term. In this, so this is not purely linear in the sense that for one input acceleration, if you find one output acceleration, for a second input acceleration, if you find a second input acceleration, output acceleration, then a linear combination of input accelerations will not exactly provide the same linear combination of the output accelerations. In that sense, this is not purely linear. Mathematicians use a very hi-fi word called affine. So this has an affine kind of nature with an additive constant term. For acceleration transformation, I am treating it as a constant, but actually it will be dependent on positions and velocities. So again, when you try to resolve that and put it in this form, then you will have a coefficient matrix in which resolved components from here, here, and here will appear into theta 3 double dot, theta 4 double dot, and theta 2 double dot on this side I have put as if that is known, and plus from this term you will have a constant here. Okay, but that's fine. You can always get it. You can always solve it. This system of equations, because theta 2 double dot you will be providing. So then this whole thing will sum up in the form of a vector like this, and then it is just a solution of a linear system of equations. And you have already noted that for solving for accelerations, unknown accelerations, not only the known acceleration, but all the velocities and positions have to be known beforehand. Fine. So that way, compared to the position solution, position kinematics problem, which was quite difficult, velocities velocity analysis will be much simpler. Okay. Acceleration analysis will be slightly complicated to the velocity analysis because of this extra additive term, because of this additional feature in the uh, form of the equation. How do you get velocities and accelerations of one body from another body, or from one point to another point within a rigid body? That is the first important point. So to specify the position of a rigid body completely, we discussed earlier that you need the location of one point and orientation of a line. It will be equivalent to the position of 2 points on the rigid body if you maintain the prescribed positions of the 2 points as really equal to the corresponding distance between the 2 points on the actual rigid body. For example, suppose I say that I am putting this bottle in a configuration so that this point is here on my table and this point is here on my table. For that to be all right, it will be necessary that the 2 points on the table that I put are indeed at a distance equal to the distance between this point and this point, right? So a similar condition will be there for velocities also. So that is why to tell the complete position rather than 2 points, rather than positioning 2 points, it is simpler and with no chance of conflict if you specify the location of one point, and rather than specifying the location of another point, you specify the orientation of one line. Okay. So specification of one point in planar motion will be 2 coordinates, and orientation of a line will be one more coordinate, and that means total 3 coordinates, which is all that you can have in plane motion. If you try to forcibly specify more, then there may be conflict. Okay. So velocity of a point and angular velocity of the body together will specify the velocity of the motion of the rigid body completely, specify the velocity of the rigid body completely. Basically, the velocity of a point is the derivative of this, and angular velocity is in a way the derivative of whatever information content is there in this. Okay. And if you have specified the velocity of point A and angular velocity of the body omega, in planar motion all omegas will be in the k direction. Okay, that is in the direction perpendicular to the plane of the motion. So with this much information, velocity of one point and angular velocity of the body, you can get the velocity of any other point on the body. Say velocity of point B, that will be velocity of point A plus omega cross this position vector, relative position vector, vector AB, right? And this omega cross AB for planar motion is actually very simple to find, because AB is in the plane of motion and omega is perpendicular to that. Okay. So these two are essentially mutually perpendicular vectors. So the magnitude will be full. Omega AB. Magnitude is omega AB. And direction will be perpendicular to omega. and perpendicular to AB. Perpendicular to omega means in the plane of the motion, and in the plane of the motion perpendicular to AB. Perpendicular to AB how? 90-degree anti-clockwise. So I have denoted that in this manner. AB subscript perpendicular sign hat. That means the direction is specified by this unit vector, which is at 90-degree counterclockwise to the vector AB. So whichever way AB goes, turn it by 90-degree, and that's it. Fine. Similarly, acceleration of a point and angular acceleration will specify the acceleration of the rigid body completely. Okay, along with all the velocity information, of course. In particular, the angular velocity of the body, which will appear in the expression. So, with the specification of linear velocity of one point and angular velocity of the body, you will have the acceleration of any other point as acceleration of A plus the relative acceleration, the way this was the relative velocity. But relative acceleration will have two components, normal and tangential. So the normal component will be this centripetal component, centripetal acceleration, which is omega square AB from B towards A, centripetal towards the center. Okay, so that is why this minus sign, and this is what you need. Okay, and then there is a tangential acceleration, which actually will involve the angular acceleration of the body. This is alpha cross vector AB. So again, alpha is in the direction perpendicular to the plane of motion. So alpha cross AB will have full magnitude, alpha times distance AB, that is the magnitude, and the direction is 90 degrees counterclockwise to the direction of AB. Fine. So this is something which you know from your understanding of rigid body motion. There is one more tricky point which we should clear, and it will appear now and then. And that is this. Sometimes it happens that you are interested in the motion of a point as belonging to one link and as belonging to another link. So that quite often happens when one link has a slider or is a slider in the slot of another link. So this point P you can refer to as a point on link I, this long slot link, or you can refer to that as a point P on the slider link, link J. Okay. So the same point P I have denoted as Pi as part of link I and as Pj as part of link J. So for this point Pi, you can say that velocity is velocity of this point plus omega cross AP. Fine, that is this omega I cross AP. For the velocity of the same point on link J, that much will certainly come, plus another term will come, which is the relative sliding. Okay, that is velocity of point P on link J relative to point P on link I, and that will be along the slot, right? For acceleration, there are quite a few terms in such situations. Acceleration of point P as on link I. Okay, so there link A, point P, both are on this rigid link. So that will be, as we saw earlier, acceleration of A plus omega I cross AP. That is actually the minus omega squared AP. Okay, magnitude, and in the direction from P to A that we saw earlier. And this is the alpha cross AP term, which will be perpendicular to AP, this direction. Okay. Relative to that, the acceleration of point Pj will have two more terms. So these terms are already there, plus two more terms. One is the acceleration of relative sliding in the slot. Okay, that is this, which will be in this direction. And then there is another, which is twice omega I cross the relative sliding velocity that we saw. Okay, and this is called the Coriolis term, which you know about from your dynamics knowledge. Okay, so with this much background, we go into the proper velocity analysis of mechanisms. To begin with, we take one simple method and very cute method, and that is a method of instantaneous center of rotation. What is instantaneous center of rotation? So on a rigid body, take 2 points, point A and point B. Suppose point A has this velocity VA and point B has this velocity VB. Okay. First of all, these two have to be consistent, because here we are specifying the velocities of 2 points on a rigid body, which cannot be independent. Okay. So these velocities cannot be independent. There is a relationship among them. So the component of VA in the direction AB and the component of VB in the direction AB should be same. Otherwise, link AB will break, right? This is moving with some velocity with some component in this direction. This, if it tries to move with some other velocity component in this direction, then length AB has to change. For a rigid body, that is not possible. So first of all, the two components should be same, VA cos alpha and VB cos beta. Fine. And then in this triangle PAB, if you draw a perpendicular PM on AB, then you know that PM you can get either from AP times sine of this angle, which is nothing but 90 degree minus alpha. You see, this is right angle. Okay. So what I have done is that whatever is the velocity direction, to that I have drawn a perpendicular. Here also, whatever is the velocity direction, to that I have drawn a perpendicular. And at whichever point, on whichever side these two perpendiculars intersect, that point I have named as P. So since this is perpendicular, so PM is AP times sine of this angle, which is sine of 90 degree minus alpha. That is this. Similarly, you can get it from here. PM is equal to BP times sine of this angle, which is the same as sine of this angle. Okay, or cos of, sorry, sine of 90 degree minus beta. 90 degree minus beta. Okay, so sine of 90 degree minus beta. This is cos alpha, this is cos beta. So in the next step, what we do, we divide this equation with this equation. So this cos alpha and this cos alpha cancel, this cos beta and this cos beta cancel. Okay. Then what remains? VA by AP is equal to VB by BP. That is this. This common ratio, we give it a name, omega. Fine. And then you will say that if we consider omega as the angular velocity of the body, then the whole thing fits. And we can say that this body is actually rotating about this point P. Okay. And then at this instant, for this moment, so we can say that the instantaneous motion of the body can be treated as a pure rotation about P with angular velocity omega. And with that, you can verify that the motion of any third, fourth, fifth point on this body will come out to be consistent. Okay, because then you will get another point C here and then make the constructions, and then based on this much information, you can show that the same omega cross whatever this vector PC will properly give the velocity in magnitude and direction correctly for that point C. Okay, that I leave for you to verify and establish to satisfy yourself. Okay. So this point P we call as the instantaneous center of rotation. That is the point about which for this instant the rigid body can be considered to be executing a pure rotation with no translation, no sliding. Okay, no translation. So the individual points will have some linear motion. All of those individual linear motions of those points can be found by omega cross the corresponding position vector starting from point P ending at that point under consideration. Okay. Just like this, you can define relative instantaneous center of rotation by finding out the center of rotation for the motion, instantaneous center of rotation for the motion of one of the links relative to another. Okay. So relative instantaneous center of rotation has a small name also, centro. Okay. So between links I and j, whatever is the centro, let us denote it as Pij. Okay. So for any two links in planar motion, you can define a centro at any instant, for any instant. Okay. So that will be relative instantaneous center of rotation between those two links. Okay. So rather than calling relative instantaneous center of rotation in one word, you can call it centro. Fine. Oh, it is jumping. Special cases of location of centros. If we try to locate the centro between links I and j, then there are some special cases which immediately make it clear which is the centro. If between links I and j there is a revolute pair connecting these two links, then obviously the location of that relative pair, that location of that revolute pair itself will be the centro between those two links, because any relative motion between these two links will be a pure rotation about that point. That was the whole idea of the revolute pair between them, right? If it is a if the relative motion between the two links is a pure rectilinear sliding, then it is like pure rotation about a point which is at an infinite distance in the direction perpendicular to that sliding motion. So that is the centro. From the on the line of relative sliding, you draw a perpendicular and say in this direction at infinite point will be the centro. If there is pure rolling of one link on another, this should be off, not on. Pure rolling of one link on another, then that point of contact of the pure rolling has no sliding because it is pure rolling. So that is the point which has the same relative motion, relative linear motion between them. So relatively, same relative motion of the 2 points as on link I and on link J. So there is no relative sliding, okay, no relative linear motion at the point of contact. And whatever is the relative motion between the two links, that can be considered as a pure rotation about that point for the time being, for this moment, for this instant. Okay, so that is the point of contact. If there is a situation where one link can slide in a curved slot in another link, then at any point, whatever is the center of curvature of that curved slot, that will be the centro between them, because relative motion will be a rotation about that point currently. If there is rolling with sliding, then you cannot immediately locate the centro, but you get one information about that. Okay, you draw a common normal at the contact point. Okay, common normal between the surfaces, and the centro will be somewhere on this line. Okay, where exactly on this line you will be able to locate only when you know the in some way the ratio between the rolling and sliding. Okay, so that will actually give you the location of the centro on this line, on the common normal. So in this case, complete information we do not get, but we get one locus of the centro on that line. Somewhere it will be. For some From some other information coming from somewhere else, you will be perhaps able to locate the precise point. And how to get that other information, or how to get such other information in any such situations where some information you have from one source and some other information you have from some other source. Let us see this. This is a very simple and very interesting and quite powerful result called Aronhold-Kennedy theorem of three centers. So for this, consider two links, I and J, with their relative instantaneous center of rotation or centro located at point Pij. Okay. And if link I has its centro with another link, say frame, for this example I have considered it as frame, but there is nothing very special about it here, and the centro of link J with the frame here, okay, OI, OJ. So I have considered this third link as the frame, okay. So you can treat Pij as a point on link I, and in order to treat like that, I have drawn an extension of link I like this, okay. And similarly, you can treat this point Pij as a point on link J. For that, I have drawn an extension like this. Okay. So You know that instantaneous center of rotation of this link is here, because this I am treating as frame. Okay, so this is the absolute instantaneous center of rotation. So that means for this instant, for that matter, for every instant, if this is really the frame, for this instant, and if there is really a revolute pair here, so for this instant, and in the case it is really frame, it is really revolute pair, then for all instants, this body is going to rotate about this point, pure rotation. And then Pij point as part of link I will have its linear motion as omega cross this vector y Pij, and that is this. Okay. On the other hand, when we consider Pij as part of this link, then its center being here, this body being in pure rotation, will have its linear velocity as omega of this link cross Oj Pij, which will be in a perpendicular direction, this. So now you will find that we get conflicting directions of the velocity of this point, okay, on link this and on link this, unless this point happens to be on the line OI OJ, okay, in which case OI Pij and OJ Pij will be along the same line and their perpendiculars will be along the same line, common perpendicular. Okay. So only in that case we will get consistent direction of this velocity. Otherwise, you will have inconsistent directions. And if the directions are inconsistent, then the point as on link this and the point as on link this may have different velocities of this point. And in that case, this point cannot be the relative instantaneous center of rotation, because for relative instantaneous center of rotation, the point as on this link and as on that link should have the same linear velocity. Okay, so that means if this is going to be the centro really between link I and link J, then it has to be on on line OI OJ. So centro of frame and link I is at OI, centro of frame and link J is at OJ, and there is nothing special here about frame. This could be any link of the mechanism, which for this limited discussion we could treat as frame. Okay, so that means any link here, say link K and link I and link J, between these three links there will be three centroids, Ij, Ik and Jk. So the result that we arrive at is this. For links Ijk in a mechanism, Pij, Pik and Pjk will always be collinear. Okay. This is the part and parcel of this theorem, Arnhold-Kennedy theorem. And I will show you the utilization of this entire concept and this theorem in solving velocity kinematics problems. For the time being, ignore this P46 written by pencil here. That is part of the solution. So right now, appreciate the problem. So, use of centroids is primarily in solving easy problems of velocity kinematics, quick fix in a single diagram without any proper calculation as such. Sometimes the entire problem may be quite complicated and may not be solvable by this method only, and for that matter may not be easily solvable by other more sophisticated, more advanced methods also. But sometimes it happens that picking up some partial information about the solution from the consideration of centroids by following this method and using Arnold-Kennedy theorem, you can supply vital information for the actual method. Okay, so that is this. Sometimes partial solution of otherwise intractable problems, and armed with this additional, you know, internal information about the solution, the other method can sometimes go ahead quite happily. Okay. So here we will discuss the example for this problem. This is a 6-link problem. Frame, then input link, coupler link, follower link. Follower link has an extension. That is why this is link 4. These are also part of the same link. And then there is another connecting link. Okay, lead link 5, which is connected to the slider 6. Okay, and that is the output link. And our problem is, for this configuration, which we have already drawn, omega 2 is given, that is the input velocity is given, find out V6, that is the output velocity. Think of this problem and appreciate this problem, and I will take a just 1 minute break, after which I'll come back and continue this solution. Right now, this is a problem. Appreciate the problem properly for this 1 minute. Perhaps stop your screen here as I stop sharing and continue after we come back. Okay. So some of the centroids that you can locate very easily from basic considerations, locate first. And what we do is we make a little diagram on the side to keep track of centroids which are already located in this diagram. Okay. So the kinematic diagram, the configuration has been already given, and trivially known centroids are P12, because between links 1 and 2 there is a revolute pair. Similarly, P23, P34, P14, P45, P56, and also P16, because between links 1 and 6 there is a pair which is a prismatic pair, sliding, relative sliding. Okay. So for that, the centro P16 is at infinity in this direction, perpendicular to the direction of relative sliding. Okay. And so in this auxiliary diagram, we make note of those. For every link, we make a point on this circle: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we have located P12, so here we connect 1 and 2. That shows schematically that P12 has been located. Then similarly, P23, P34, P14, P45, P56, P61, or P16, whatever. So these are known, so these are connected by continuous lines. To demarcate here in this static picture that these are known in one round. in the 0th initial round. Okay. Now you want to know the velocity of sliding of link 6. That means velocity of sliding of link 6 relative to 1, right? And all points of link 6 related to 1 will move with the same linear velocity because there is a sliding pair, prismatic pair. So this is what you want to know. This is what is wanted in the problem. And the motion of all points on link 2 is known because that is where you are giving the input omega 2. Okay, omega 2 known, V6 wanted. So your intention would be to find the centro between link 2 and link 6. That is, you will want to locate P26, and then P26 as on point or as on link 6 and as on link 2 will move with the same velocity, right? Because that is the centro between the two links. So after you locate P26, whatever is its velocity as part of link 2 will be the required velocity of that point of this slider. Okay, that is what you wanted, and all points on the slider will move with the same velocity anyway. So P26 is to be located. The moment that is located, the problem is solved. And using Arnold-Kennedy three-center theorem, you can go on identifying and locating centros one by one. Some the location of some of them that you determine now will help in locating others later. You want to make this connection. Okay. For that, something you already know. One line you already know because centro 1 2 you know, centro 1 6 you know, and from the three center theorem you know that P12, P16 and P26 will be on the same line. Okay. But you don't know others. So you need either P23 and P23 you know and P36 which you don't know, or you need P25 which you don't know and P56 which you know. So how to make a connection? So to begin with, I have shown how to determine P13, though for this problem it is not needed. See, P12, P23 and P13 will be along a same line. So these two are known, you draw this line. Similarly, P14, P34 and P13 will be along the same line. So these two you know, you draw this line. Now from here, between these two, you know that P13 should be along this line, and between these two, you know that it will be on this line. Wherever the two lines intersect, that will be the location of P13. But P13 actually is not needed for this problem because it is not helping you in any way directly. So let us disregard that. What else? See, in this 1 2 3 4, you know 1 2, you know 2 3, you know 3 4, you know 1 4. The way you could determine 1 3 by considering this arm and this arm 1 2 3 and arm 1 4 3 between 1 and 3. Like that, you can determine 2 4, considering arm 2 1 4 and arm 2 3 4. So you see, P12 is known, P14 is known, P12, P14. Draw this line. And P23 is known, P34 is known. Draw this line. Wherever they join, wherever they meet, that is P24. Okay. So P12, P14, draw a line. P23, P34, draw another line. Wherever they intersect, you get P24. Fine. So as you determine P24, you connect this with dashed line. I am showing with dashed line to show the order of this determination being after this round is over. Okay. Similarly, from this side, 1, 4, 5, 6, this loop, 1, 4, 5, 6 loop. P14 you know, P34 you know. Okay. No, that is not helping. P14 you know, P45 you know, P14 you know. Mm-mm. What I am trying to determine? Oh, I am trying to determine 4, 6, right? So I need P14, P16. Yes. So P14 is here, and P16 is in this line at an infinite distance. If it is at infinite distance, then whether you go along this line or you go from any other point in the same direction, it is same thing, because at infinite distance all of the points, all of those parallel lines will meet. Okay. So whether you take it along this line at infinite distance or along this parallel line along in infinite distance is the same thing. So considering this P16, so for this centro P16, actually the direction is important, not whether you start from here or here, because at infinite distance, this infinite distance and this infinite distance will go at the same point. So P14 and P16 in infinite distance, so somewhere along this P46 will be. Okay. And for another point on P46, for P46, you see P45 and P56, this point. So this. So however, this line, there is one locus for P46, and this line, another locus for P46 meet, that is the point P46. So you have got P46. So connect 46 like this at the next generation, next round. Okay. Now you see for P26 you have got enough information. 1216 will give you a line for P26, and 2446 will give you another line for P26. So 1216. This is 12 and 16 is at infinite distance along this line. So this is one line for P26. Okay. And the other line you will get from P24 and P46. So P24 you determined earlier, and P46 you have determined now. You connect these two and get another locus for P46. This locus of P46 and this locus for P46 intersect here, and that is why this is the point P46. Okay. Sorry, P26. So P24, P46, P2 and P26. So this point is P26. Okay. And now that you have determined P26, you can consider this link as an extension like this, and determine the velocity of this point as on link 2, and that will be the same omega 2 cross O2 P46, this. Omega 2 cross this vector. Okay. And since this vector is vertical, so the cross product will be horizontal like this. And see, omega 2 is this way. Okay, so P2, the omega 2 cross this position vector will not be in this direction, rather in the opposite direction. So this direction that I have drawn is wrong. The velocity will be in this direction, and therefore V6 will be negative in the other direction, in the negative direction to the one that has been shown here. makes sense because as this rotates like this, the things here will be pulled in this direction a little, and this will move horizontally in this direction, and the linear velocity will be omega 2 times this distance, and that's the answer that you wanted. Okay, so P26 is what cracks your problem. So this is how you solve velocity problems with the method of instantaneous center of rotation. However, this is somewhat a uh, toy rather than a weapon. As an instrument, it is fine, but it's a small instrument. It's like a toy and not a weapon. So, relatively simpler problems you can solve with the help of this, but sometimes some quite vital problems you can handle. There is another point that this method is limited to velocity analysis only. You cannot extend this as it is without going completely in a different direction to acceleration analysis. So this you can use with real utility only for velocity analysis. If the problem involves determining velocities and accelerations also, then this will go only halfway and then leave you high and dry. Then you have to do something afresh to solve the accelerations. So if both velocity and acceleration you have to solve, then we will use the other method, which is a little more general, and that is the method of velocity and acceleration diagrams. Okay, so that we discuss in the next lecture. So far as this lecture is concerned, this little cute, interesting result and this cute, little, interesting method is all that we do. Okay, so we will study velocity and acceleration diagrams in the next lecture.